Hey guys, Mr. Mini Painter here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I painted the Nazgul of Dol Guldur. And they are a set that has been lying around for ages, at least in my case. And because they are actually quite simple, I was kind of afraid to start painting them, you know what I mean? That you wanted them to be special, you want to have them to have something that you're proud of, just besides being black and some metal look. As the regular Nazgul have. And I wanted to paint a ghostly effect to these Nazgul, and so I saw something on the internet and I decided to try it out for myself. Now, let me remind you again, I'm not a master painter, but I really enjoyed using some simple techniques to create some extremely nice results. Now, before I started painting these Nazgul of Dol Guldur, I wanted them to have a nice base, so I created some rocky base using cork, and I'm going to show you how I did that in the beginning of the video. If you're not really interested in the base, just skip to the part where I start painting them. That's up to you, of course. So please enjoy the video. I hope it's of any help to you guys, and if it is, leave something in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Let's get started. Alright, for these Nazgul of Dol Guldur, I wanted them to have a base that is a bit more, that has a bigger presence than just a black base with some modeling sand. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted those guys to be a bit more heightened, a bit more larger than the rest. And what better way to do so than put them on a tiny mountain. So I'm just using some cork here and gluing it to the base to have some rocky surface to put them on. And you can add some modeling sand or even a second layer or a third layer of cork to create a heightened base. It's just an easy way to make your minis, the base of your minis at least, look a bit more special. And for these guys, let's face it, this is an expensive set. The Nazgul of Dol Guldur. It's not something you just put on a regular base or build an army. This is the elite, right? So I wanted to dress them up a little bit, and also for the paint job I'm going for a little bit more special than just the traditional black and metal look for the Nazgul that you would normally do. So as I'm finishing up these bases, I'm gonna glue the models to the top of it. Make sure to let that dry before you do anything else with it. Add some modeling sand on the remaining black parts or on the rock as well, and you get something like this. Now these look quite nice already, I think. The modeling sand really helps blend everything together. You can add some details there. I didn't want any grass or tufts. I just wanted him to be as plain as possible, so to really show the finished miniature in the end. So all miniatures are ready, they're prepped, they're glued to their base, and they're ready for the first primer layer. You can use an airbrush if you want, or just a spray can of whatever primer you prefer. I would probably say do it in black, because let's face it, they are mostly black. So here's my finished model. I'm going to show you guys in with one or two, maybe three models, my process of painting. And to start off, I'm using a lead belcher and a dry brush, and wipe off most of my paint and gently dry brushing all the metal parts. Make sure that most of the paint is actually really removed from your brush, because you do not want to overdo this. I really don't like using null oil, for example, or stuff like that, because it tends to make the model shiny. So when dry brushing, you instantly create those darker areas as well, and they're done. You don't have to add any details there then. So if you go too bright, too solid of a layer, then you have to work with oils to blacken it out again. Now with my regular brush, I'm painting in some of the more solid details, so the belt buckles or any details these guys have. But for the rest, I wanted it to be dry brushed and dry brushed looking. So not that neat, not that sharp, just to stay close to that ghostly Nazgul look. Alright, when picking out these details, I'm going to show you on another model the effect of dry brushing with very, very, very little paint. So wipe off almost everything. You get those sharp edges on the curves, on the handle, on the knuckles. And you can see that the inside is barely having any lead belch or any metal look on it. So you make sure that the bristles of your brush are very soft, very smooth, and gently wipe over that. Of course, I speed things up when showing you guys in a video, but I'm going over it very slowly, very gently. Now, once done, I am going to color the bottom half of the cloaks with ashen gray. And the reason I'm doing so is because I want to create a ghostly effect, kind of glowing from the bottom. Just a little bit more special than a regular black Nazgul. Otherwise, you're more or less done at this point. And let's face it, these are way too expensive to be regular, normal guys, right? You want to make something special of it. And I saw some ghostly eerie effects on the internet, and I wanted to create something of my own. So as you can see here with some of those models, I'm just painting the bottom and kind of pulling up the paint. Whilst doing it, I'm thinning it down so that you get a bit of a natural transition. And I'm doing that again with some Dawnstone, but this time remaining only on the bottom of the miniature, so that there is a transition from black to dark gray to lighter gray. And the reason I'm using these grays is that I'm going over with a blue color afterwards. So this is kind of a highlighting my blues just before using it. So kind of setting the canvas, so to say. Yeah, so the same goes with the Dawnstone. Start at the bottom, kind of pull up your paint, and you can see this gradual transition forming here. Now, once you're done dry brushing, before you want to start doing anything else, you want to make sure that the blacks are really black. And for that, I used Black Legion, but you can use Abaddon Black or any black you have lying around. Black Legion is a dark contrast paint, the darkest, I think, the most black there is. And really does the job well without creating a shiny effect. Now, before continuing, I am doing some lining here with Mechanicus Standard Gray on the rest of the cloak. You can see that the bottom here is already painted, but that's because I changed the order of the video a little bit. Just add some details here and there, but not too much and not too bright. And of course you can do the same thing with a larger dry brush and some subtle highlighting here and there as well. It's just up to you, whatever method you prefer. Now I'm using Aethermatic Blue on the cloak. And what I'm doing here is first I'm painting the bottom, all the gray parts we painted before, and it's nice and transparent actually. So the brighter gray parts, of course, they show brighter underneath. But you want to make sure that you take the entire cloak, the outer cloak, so to say, with the blue as well. And you can see that here I use an old brush and kind of went over it top to bottom, making sure that there are no puddles of paint left, because I don't want any bright blue areas, so I'm kind of going over it until those are gone. And it's better to do this twice or maybe even 3 times than to do one with a too thick of a coat. So make sure that all the bright blue is gone while you paint. And in the end you get something like this. A nice transition from an eerie, glowing bottom half of the cloak to the darker black at the top. Now once you've done about 2 or 3 layers of the blue, it's time for the greens, and for that I'm using Hexwraith Flame. The same process as before, so slap that on, but make sure that there are no green puddles here. You do not want any green layers, so this is way too much, and you can see me wiping it off and kind of putting it on other parts so that there are no bright spots. Just a subtle green glow is enough. And don't go all the way to the bottom, because that's where your blues are. So I want to have a transition from black to green to blue. Kind of an eerie, ghostly effect, and having a blue and green really works together for me, at least. So make sure that there's no visible paint layers, just a subtle glow. And you can do that maybe also twice if needed, depending on how bright you want it to be. So you just put that on, spread it, and dry your brush if there's any puddles, and dry your brush and put it away. Go over those paints until they're almost gone. Now it's time for some final details, and I'm taking a small dry brush, wiping most of the paint off while using Bharat blue as a nice and bright blue for the absolute bottom of this miniature. So just the very rims of the cloak, maybe some wrinkles or some folds, but that's it. And that way you get a nice sharpness at the base, very bright blue, adding to the ghostly effect. Now you can do this before or after you add the Aeternum green. I'm using a regular brush here as well to do the same thing, so I'm kind of experimenting on all my minis here on what works best. I haven't really decided, because the dry brush generally gives a good result, but so does a regular brush, so it really depends on your preference, I guess. Now once this was done, I again used Aethermatic blue to kind of blend that last layer into the previous one. Don't go over the greens, because you want them to remain green, to get some nice color details in there. Now it's time for the base. Mechanicus Standard Gray to paint those rocks. Now if you have done a different base than I did, of course paint it however you see fit. I'm just going to show you how I painted my rocky base. So I went over it with a heavy layer of Nuln Oil, so to create large deep shadows. And the fun thing about cork is that it really gets in there, so it dissolves into all the holes, and so it really blends everything together. Then I dirtied it up by adding some Agrax Earthshade here and there, just to have some color in my base. And let's face it, rocks are never really clean, are they? So just add some dirt here and there. Then I'm dry brushing some Dawnstone to emphasize those edges, get some sharpness in there, so just focus on the top and the very edges of the rocky parts. And once that's done, we're repeating the process with Grey Seer, a brighter gray variant, to just focus on those very tiny edges there and get some extra brightness and sharpness in there. And here are the finished Nazgul of Dol Guldur. They look very eerie, spooky, they look great, I love how they turned out. Now I was kind of afraid to start painting these guys, as I am with most special miniatures, you know, because you want them to be good, you want them to look good and not mess it up. And forcing myself to do it anyway usually results in a nice result. At least I enjoyed it and I'm satisfied. So I hope this video was of any help to you guys. Now if it was, please leave a comment below, I'd love to hear from you, and share your work with me if you want to. Now if you're interested in these kind of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel, as I'll be posting every week and I'll keep you posted on any future videos. And please also consider checking out my Patreon page, as I'll be painting a lot of different games there, and some of those videos might hit the YouTube channel in the future, but some of them are exclusively to Patreon. So check it out if you want to. For now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye!